If you have a bad microbe in the sow, then there is a higher chance that the piglets are going to pick that bad microbe. But if we have a good microbe that is established in the sow, the piglets would be able to pick that good microbe, and hence they would go ahead to improve their immunity, improve production, and to give us the phenotypic traits that we are interested in.
Welcome to the Swine Nutrition Blackbelt Podcast, the latest swine nutrition research digested for you. I'm your host, Clayton Chastain, and today we have with us Seidu Adams, a Ph.D. candidate at the University of Nebraska. So Seidu, could you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, my name is Seidu Adams, and I'm from Ghana. I'm from the northern part of Ghana. It's actually called Pontamale. It's a farming community in the northern part of Ghana. And I started my education there, and I had my BSc and then in agricultural technology, and I specifically majored in biotechnology. So after my BSc, I had the opportunity to travel out for my master's, and I am currently here for my PhD.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that study you sent about the relationship between the sow's microbiome and her offsprings and kind of that immunity transfer that occurs there. So what all did you guys look at, and how strong of a correlation between the two did you see?
Yes, that is very true, as you rightly mentioned. Good, because we wanted to see how is this, the sow and the piglet actually related in terms of their microbiome. So for what we did in that study is that we sampled 10 sows at birth, that is day 0. So we took the fecal sample of the sows and their piglets on day 0. Then we followed them on day 14 and then day 21 at a point where the piglets are going to be weaned, because we wanted to know whether the microbes that are found at birth, are they able to persist? Do they establish and are able to persist? And we also asked the question, where are the sources of these microbes that establish early? And if possible, can we use the information that we obtain to be able to perform some form of changes within the microbiome that establishes in order to introduce a good phenotype? So in that study, for what we saw was that out of the microbiome which we analyzed, we saw that there is a good number of the microbes that establishes early in life are able to persist till weaning. So when we estimated the ASVs are like the microbial indices. It's like the SNPs of a genetic, where you take a specific microbe. That ASV, we are able to predict those ASVs in the piglet samples. And then we counted how many of those ASVs, or how many of the microbial species, are able to persist. We saw that about 109 of those unique bacteria species are able to persist from day 0 till the point of weaning. And then the question we then ask is that, are these core ASVs, those that persist, are they coming from the sow, or some of them are coming from possibly the environment or from diet? So for what we did is that we compared those core ASVs which are able to persist, that is the 109 ASVs, we compared them to the sow's microbiome at the point of birth. So when we compared that, we saw that out of that 109 ASVs, about 91 of those species are coming from the sow's microbiome. And this is telling us that this is a good news, because if we are able to introduce a good microbiome to the sow at a point of pregnancy, there is a higher possibility that that good microbiome could be taken up by the piglets. So, and the next question we wanted to equally ask was that these good microbes, are they performing an important role? So to determine whether they are performing an important role, for what we did is that we estimated the amount of reads these core ASVs, or the core microbes, are recruiting. So for what we saw was that these core ASVs are recruiting a higher percentage. At day 0, they are recruiting about 90% of the total reads at day 0. So this is telling us that at day 0, these core ASVs in the piglet samples are performing an important role. And their proportion kind of decreases as the piglets ages. And this is a good news, or yes, let's say it's a good news, because at the point of birth, these piglets, let's say the first week after birth, these piglets are only on they are only on a milk diet. So this is telling us that diet is playing a role, because the microbes that would be able to metabolize the sugars that are present in the milk are those that would be able to perform an important role, because their substrate is present, their food is present, hence they are able to, to grow. And the microbes that, let's say, like the fiber degraders and all that are not present, they get the chance to also express when the piglets are growing old. So that tells us that the microbes that are present at day 0 would possibly shift to day 14. And then that microbe would also shift to day 21 when the piglets are, at a point of weaning. So in all, for what our study is telling us is that when you establish a microbiome early, that microbiome stands the chance to persist. And when a piglet is able to stay, is able to stay with the dam, that is the sow, they get the chance to pick some of the microbes from the sow. But now the question that we can ask is that if you have a bad microbe in the sow, then there is a higher chance that the piglets are going to pick that bad microbe. But if we have a good microbe that is established in the sow, the piglets would be able to pick that good microbe, and hence they would go ahead to improve their immunity, improve production, and to give us the phenotypic traits that we are interested in. So then the final question is that how can we use this information to increase productivity? So this brings us to the point of where we start thinking of possibly introducing a probiotic, or being able to develop a probiotic where we can be able to use that to improve productivity.
Gotcha. So you mentioned it a little earlier about kind of identifying that window of opportunity in which you find it the best time to give that probiotic or prebiotic to the sow in order to see a response and transfer to the piglet. And you also mentioned maybe doing that during the beginning of gestation. So do you believe the beginning of gestation then is like the opportune time to introduce a probiotic or prebiotic? Or do you think it could really be all throughout gestation?
Yes, that is a very good question. Yes, to introduce a probiotic to the sow, possibly you would want to introduce it few weeks before gestation, because that is possibly a time where these microbes will be able to at least establish before the gestation happens, and they have the chance to be introduced to the piglets at a point of birth.
Gotcha. So you kind of mentioned that the next steps for this line of research is to use this information to develop a more beneficial gut microbiome in piglets. So with your lab, what do you guys have planned for future research and trying to further this cause and reach those next steps?
Perfect. Yes. So we actually have a lot in stock, but to not take the whole time, what I'm gonna actually say is that currently we are phenotyping some microbes. Let's say we are changing a microbe to produce a function of interest, which we are looking for. So for what we are doing is that we are phenotyping these microbes for feed efficiency, high performance microbes and all that. So if we phenotype this, now we know the point that to introduce a good microbe for it to persist, you have to introduce it early at birth. So what we do is these phenotype microbes, we would then introduce it at birth, and then hopefully that these microbes get established and then they produce that phenotypic traits that we are looking for.
When it comes to raising healthy animals, you need more than the right solutions. You need the right partner who brings decades of industry expertise and a global team to put that knowledge to work for the advancement of your operation. At Phibro Animal Health Corporation, we are proud to work with you as your trusted partner.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds like that'll be some exciting research, and we'll make sure to keep an eye out for any publications that show up on our end so we can maybe have you back on here and continue our talk.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. And I would always be grateful to come back again. We have a lot of exciting things going on. So you can just call us whenever you need.
Yep. And everyone else, thank you for listening to the Swine Nutrition Blackbelt Podcast. Please visit us at swinenutritionblackbelt.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you won't miss out on the next episode. See you next week. Hey, everyone. We're always searching for the latest and greatest research to share each week. If you have a swine nutrition related research trial and would like to come on the show and share it with us, feel free to email the details about your research to hello@wisenetics.com.